If you are both a TCU or a Baylor fan, you just came off of one of the most exhilarating finishes of the 2022 college football season. If you're Baylor, you're heartbroken as you had that game won multiple times, and while you guys are still going to a bowl game, you missed out on a chance to take TCU out of the playoff and get a big time win. If you're a TCU fan, you cannot believe what just happened. You found a way to get back in the game, and then despite having a terrible third down play call, you managed to get the field goal unit out there and kick the game-winning kick to keep your playoff hopes alive, your undefeated season alive, and ultimately get that win. It's been quite a crazy season for TCU football as they have had a ton of second half comebacks, but your march to the playoff will continue as you guys beat Baylor today. You'll have one more regular season game before the Big 12 title. In today's video, I want to talk about TCU football, go through today's game, my expectations for the team moving forward, and overall, my thoughts on the Horned Frogs. But before we get started, we're so close to 100K, so be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you want to support today's video, turn on notifications so you never miss when I upload, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now, let's talk about TCU football. After the best coach in school history, Gary Patterson, retired, expectations were not high for this year's TCU team. At quarterback, it was supposed to be Chandler Morris, but he got hurt early on, and eventually Max Duggan took over, who had been very underwhelming in his last 3 years as a starter. They lost Zach Evans to Ole Miss, but on the bright side, they did return one of the best receivers in the country in Quentin Johnston. Going into week 1, they'd play against a former Big 12 team in Colorado, and they would win that game 38-13. A week 2 victory over Tarleton State didn't do anything to change people's opinion on the Frogs, and neither did a week 3 game against SMU. They somewhat struggled in that rivalry matchup, but they did advance to 3-0, and Max Duggan was starting to take off. The weekend after that, they would host number 18 Oklahoma, and they were fresh off a loss to Kansas State, and TCU beat the brakes off of them. They won 55-24, TCU's offense had its coming out party, and then they got their opportunity to jump into the top 25. After that, they were matched up with an undefeated Kansas team, and as game day was there, TCU had a lead, but then gave it up to Kansas's backup quarterback, and it took a Quentin Johnston circus catch to win the game, and then Kansas turning it over on downs. The Horned Frogs had now advanced to 5-0, and while there was talk of them going to the playoff, no one thought that they were actually legitimate. Also, the Big 12 was a bloodbath this year, so they were more than likely going to lose one of their last 7 games. The next weekend, they were losing to Oklahoma State, but they made a comeback and beat the number 8 Cowboys 43-40 in double overtime. This was a massive win for TCU, but things would not get any easier. Number 17 Kansas State would come to town, and they were one of the hottest teams in college football, but TCU put them away by 10 points, and then they'd have to travel on the road to a desperate West Virginia team. This game was close until the end, and while West Virginia almost pulled off the upset, TCU did enough in the last few minutes to advance to 8-0. They still weren't getting a ton of respect, but they just kept winning. They beat Texas Tech by 10 in early November, and then last weekend had a trap game against number 18 Texas. I guess it's kind of rude to call that a trap game, but personally, I thought Texas was going to come out and beat TCU and end it all. After a slow start to the game, TCU ultimately got it together and won 17-10, despite almost screwing it up late. But now they'd be matched up with Baylor. They're one of those preseason top 2 Big 12 favorites. Baylor got off to a quick start as they scored a 10-yard touchdown with just under 10 minutes to go in the first quarter. Max Duggan would score a touchdown late in the first quarter, and we go into the second quarter tied at 7. Baylor would then score another touchdown before a Kendre Miller touchdown would tie it up, and it would go tied into halftime. In the third quarter, Max Duggan found Gunnar Henderson for a 26-yard touchdown, but they missed the extra point. This would come back to be extremely costly, as Blake Shapen would throw for a touchdown, and then Richard Reese would throw for a touchdown, giving themselves a 28-20 lead. With just over 2 minutes to go, TCU went down the field and scored a touchdown. TCU's running back dropped the pass on the 2-point conversion, and it looked like the season was over. It seemed to be that TCU's playoff hype was over, Baylor fans were celebrating, and this feel-good story was done. Except they got the stop they needed. Max Duggan drove them down the field and got them within field goal range. Sonny Dykes decided to spike it on second down, but after running it on third down, the clock did not stop, and they'd have to get the field goal unit out there without a timeout and with time ticking away and their season on the line. They ended up getting in position, and TCU kicked that field goal and won 29-28, sending Baylor fans home, locking up the Big 12, and keeping their undefeated playoff hopes alive. TCU is now 11-0, 8-0 in the Big 12, and they are a legitimate playoff contender. TCU will have one more game at home against Iowa State next weekend, and Iowa State is not great this year, so they should be able to win that game at home. and then they'll play in the Big 12 title game, where they're more than likely going to face up with a rematch against Kansas State. Max Duggan has been tremendous at quarterback, Kendre Miller has been one of the most underrated backs in the country, the defense has been tremendous, and Quentin Johnston is a superstar at receiver. TCU has bought into their culture, they have a great offense, and they're finding a way to win. So I would not doubt that they beat both Iowa State and Kansas State in the Big 12 championship and get to the college football playoff. At this point, they probably need a couple other dominoes to fall to feel really safe about it, but TCU has a chance to go to the playoff. They saved their season, and today's win was ginormous and one of the biggest in school history in my opinion. But what do you guys think? If you're a TCU fan, what do you think of the season? And what do you think of your playoff hopes? If you're a Baylor or TCU fan, give me your thoughts on today's games. And be sure to let me know another topic, team, player, or situation I can cover next. Before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my videos on the end screen, including my video about the rise of Quentin Johnston. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.